First up today on AGetc, we're joined by Ficke, who is talking about how he has implemented many core soil health principles into his operation. Next, Barrett Simon is back with another Cattleman's Corner with guests Shane Bedwell, COO and Director of Breed Improvement, American Hereford Association, and Brady Jensen of Jensen Bros Herefords. And the topic of conversation is Heterosis. Then Jason Hartman from the Kansas Forest Services gives us tips on how to protect against wildfire. And we'll end with Sarah Place, who talks to us about food waste.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Ficke from Pleasantdale, Nebraska. Three important things that I've come away with after talking to several people before and after I presented was you're never too old to change. And just because we've always done it this way doesn't mean we need to continue doing it that way. And you really are in charge of controlling your own destiny. So in a nutshell, those three things would be, kind of hitting the high spots, and I just want to give them the okay. People look for someone that that they look at as a specialist or a professional in the area, and I've come from both sides, producer and the consulting deal, and it's just, there's so many opportunities now that we just can't wait. We need to really change how things are going in agriculture, else any hint of what we think agriculture is will not be here in the future. Everything is cyclical. History repeats itself. All I'm trying to do is to combine the things that we have available now with all the things we know that has worked from the past and find it in a very, not necessarily holistic, but a natural setting that's conducive for not only my operation, but neighbors and communities and things like that. It all has to be a really well-oiled machine to make this work correctly, and it's easier than we think it. It's like a tug of war. I mean, we're really, when everyone's not on the same page, all they're doing is just kind of pulling things back and forth. There's not a really good movement as far as the progress on the farm. And I'm not talking progress buying new machinery, buying land, doing things like that, the more technology. It's the progress it's the communication. It has to be in place, else progress stands still. They're looking for someone that can sit at that table and to talk to multiple generations, to look in the weeds of their operation and see what they're missing, and really start to make that soil right and save money, and then build a stronger family, because it really all fits together perfectly. But that's what they're asking. What can we do? How can we make our operation the way you've made yours? And we really are kind of caught in a system that doesn't reward us and maybe even takes advantage of us. I'm probably more of a philosopher than anything else in this. And everyone has to understand the philosophy that we're trying to get to, that end target that we're trying to get to. So when you bring them all under one roof, it's a great way for everyone to hear every different side of how this hooks together or how this works together. And you can only do that in an event like this. Else you're just dealing with one person at a time, and the response from my presentation has been amazing. We've just had tons of people that they're asking more questions.
Sure Crop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for that grower. We're based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well on their planting systems and what they're doing. Sure Crop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you can always email me at Corey@surecropfertilizers.com, and with any questions you have, and we're glad to answer and work with you.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Wheat. Learn more at rediscoverwheat.org.
I'm Barrett Simon, livestock agent for the Post Rock Extension District, and today I'm with COO of the American Hereford Association, Shane Bedwell. Shane, thanks for joining us.
I appreciate you having me on.
But we wanted to pick Shane's brain about several things, but largely we're going to talk just kind of about the heterosis effect and where a guy can capture value. But before we dive into that, Shane, maybe for our viewers, just share a little bit of your background and what it is you do now with the Hereford Association.
You bet, Barrett. I grew up in south central Kansas, west of Medicine Lodge. Family still ranches and runs a commercial cow-calf operation and stocker ranch there today. I have the privilege to work for the American Hereford Association as Chief Operating Officer and Director of Breed Improvement. I've been with the association now for about 3 years, and I've really enjoyed the job. And so day in and day out, I get to work with our breeders and our genetic evaluation, and it's sure an honor doing that for them. The breeders have made great strides in terms of the progress that they've made on traits and making the cattle better, and ultimately that helps the commercial guys out there, and that's our focus and that's our goal. And so it's an exciting time really at the American Hereford Association. Last fiscal year in 18, we were up across all segments of our business in registrations, cow inventories, and our membership is growing. Our branded beef program, Certified Hereford Beef, is growing, and so it's a great reflection, as I said, what our members and breeders are doing to advance the genetic nucleus of the Hereford seed stock population.
You bet. And Shane, you mentioned one of my absolute favorite phrases, regardless of cattle age or kind or breed type, but you had said we've just made them better. And I think that's a goal across all facets of the industry. And one aspect I think that can really lend itself as we start focusing more on commercial livestock production is utilizing some heterosis to do just that. And so maybe talk a little bit about just the heterosis factor and the black baldy factor and what those cattle can do as you compare them back across a straight bred genetic line of any type.
Sure. You know, crossbreeding's been well documented for over 75 years, and it's one of those things that it seems like it comes and goes, and it shouldn't really, because it's absolutely not a fad. Direct heterosis pays, and the advantages that you get with direct heterosis in that first cross is hybrid vigor. Those calves hit the ground with more just get up and go to them. The health of those cattle are better, and then the obvious advantage is at weaning time, the pounds that you gain. And what's neat about the Hereford breed and how we match up in that first cross with another breed is the fact that you know, relative to other breeds, we're the most unrelated to you know, what would be an Angus or Red Angus or even the Continentals. And I think that makes sense. Since 1881, we've maintained a strict herd book at the American Hereford Association and have bred Hereford cattle. And our breeders have progressed with the times. And so the direct heterosis is substantial, what it can gain and give a cow-calf producer. The other thing that comes with that is the maternal heterosis. And the Baldy cow has been a favorite of many for several years. Her longevity and fertility advantages that F1 has, and those low hanging fruit that are hard to kind of make progress on sometimes, you get a bump in heterosis and that maternal heterosis with Hereford. And so that's exciting. If you're a producer that's keeping those females and keeping back a set of those each and every year, I think there's makes sense to have that crossbred female, and you have so much versatility with her, no matter what you want to do with her from there on out.
Join us for the 4th annual Meeting Demand Sale at Gardner Angus Ranch, Monday, May 13th at 10 a.m. Up for sale are 173 20-month-olds and 250 bred commercial cows and heifers, including the complete dispersal of longtime Gardner customer YOLO Ranch. Catalog available at GardnerAngus.com. Register for online bidding at liveauction.tv. At Gardner Angus Ranch, you aren't just buying a breed, you are buying a brand backed by 4 generations of disciplined seed stock production. See you May 13th at the ranch.
This segment brought to you by Sure Crop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
Well, I'm Brady Jensen, the son of Kevin and Sheila Jensen, who own and operate Jensen Bros Herefords here in Cortland, Kansas. Myself and my wife, Allie, along with my 2 siblings, Brooke and her husband, Kalen, and my younger brother, Ben, all help out on our family Hereford operation here. The biggest reason why we like to supply Hereford bulls and geared these Hereford bulls towards commercial producers is because we believe that our bulls will make outstanding F1 Baldies when sired on primarily black females. One, you capture so much heterosis, and that's money on the table for any commercial producer to utilize. Not only will you have better replacement females to put back into the herd, but you will inject extra growth into your calf crop and just find big advantages both at the sale barn and in the pasture.
And I think you hit the nail on the head with the maternal aspect, because as you mentioned, at weaning, we can always see, a set of crossbred steers that comes in and really put the top on the cattle, through utilizing crossbreeding. And we can see those. Those are hard facts that we know are taking place. We also know that black baldy females in particular, and in this case, are highly sought after, and we generally just accept them as a female that can go out and work in a variety of scenarios and environments. But that's something that's a little harder to measure, is the maternal and the fertility advantage that comes through that, and something that can become so crucial and so beneficial to the commercial man to utilize some of that crossbreeding, and not just utilize it for the pounds, right? Just as you mentioned, take advantage of the maternal aspect of it as well.
Absolutely. So we've done several studies, and there's great literature out there that the science community has documented on the maternal heterosis that you're talking about. The 2 studies that we conducted through third-party universities found a 7% advantage in pregnancy rate, $51 advantage per cow per year because of her ability to breed back, have a calf sooner in that, and breed up quicker in that calving interval, and just stay in the herd longer. And so just more pounds of calf per year coming from her to those advantages of the Hereford genetics coming through in that cross.
Absolutely. And so I guess I'd ask you before we let you go, Shane, we know you've got plenty going on this time of year, but while we've got you, I do want you to maybe shed a little light on some different programs that you all are kicking off or have been utilizing within the Hereford Association.
Sure. We have several commercial programs built for the commercial cattlemen that are taking advantage of those top-end genetics out there. Like I said before, our breeders are doing a great job of supplying a great nucleus of seed stock out there for the commercial industry. And so for those commercial producers taking them up on that offer, we have our Hereford Advantage program that's built around our $CHB our terminal index. And so if those bulls or your bull battery is in the top half of the breed, you qualify, that calf crop qualifies for some extra marketing throughout the country, whether you're marketing in the country, at the sale barn, on the videos. Get a hold of us and we'll help you and assist you in that. And then we have 2 female programs, our Maternal Advantage that's geared for the black baldy, and our Premium Red Baldy program that is using Hereford genetics on Red Angus cows. And both of those 2 female programs are built around our Baldy Maternal Index. And again, it's an index that's geared for the commercial industry, folks keeping back replacements, taking the rest of the progeny on through the feedlot and finishing them. And so it's a dual kind of purpose index, and it fits a lot of folks out there and can definitely get you in the right direction and increasing pregnancy rates and fertility and that maternal heterosis that we were just talking about. And so those are great programs. I'd welcome you anytime to give us a call at the American Hereford Association. Shoot us an email if you do have a set of calves, whether it be feeder cattle or replacement females, or if you're looking for that Hereford bull to add into your program, you can call us or contact us at any time.
Absolutely, and I'll echo Shane's thoughts there. If you have any questions about the advantage of heterosis, whether on the terminal or maternal side, stop by and see us sometime in one of our local extension offices. We hope you've enjoyed today's episode of the Cattleman's Corner. I know I've sure enjoyed the opportunity to visit with you, Shane.
You bet. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Trust and leadership are critical to success at Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center in Manhattan. Just ask Coach Bill Snyder.
People of the Regenerative Center do care about others. I've been highly impressed with those people that have that vested interest and try to help people become better. The center really is a wonderful thing here in Manhattan, first of its kind. And we're on the cutting edge of what lies ahead.
Find out more about the trusted leader in stem cell therapy at kansasrmc.com. Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
As land starts to dry up, it's the season for wildfires. Jason Hartman from the Kansas Forest Service explains why this year differs from years past.
This year coming into what is our traditional fire season time. But one difference this year is, as opposed to the last 2 or 3 years, we had that growing season and then turned off. And we had very dry conditions following that. We've had a wet winter to mitigate some of that concern, but not totally eliminate it.
Hartman addresses even fields that's endured moisture and stress due to weather conditions hold the same potential to start a fire.
With a long enough drying period, even those matted down fields will dry out and will be receptive to burning and will be just as much fuel as they were standing up.
And fire preventative maintenance is key. Hartman gives advice on steps you can take to prevent and or prepare for a fire.
Is always best for the fire safety is to do as much maintenance, as much green, as much clean of loose debris and ember receptors as possible. Always right at the home, right at where the home foundation walls meet the landscape. Make sure that that's a fairly well or very well maintained area where there aren't a lot of loose material, leaf litter, loose grasses, loose gardening debris that can be a receptor for a windblown ember that then catches that material on fire, that then it's right up next against the structure itself, and that's what leads to a lot of structure ignitions, more so than the flaming front itself almost. If there's a fire in your area, definitely pay attention to local media, local instructions of local emergency crews, and be ready to be out of harm's way if they request you to do so.
Kim Mannering with Hardy Insurance. Today we will talk about umbrella coverage. Did you know that if your cattle get out, you could be held liable for that? Call me. Let's have a discussion. 316-945-6733.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission, Progress, powered by Kansas farmers.
And so this whole upcycling thing really comes into play when we think about, the whole food chain, right? And we get all the way back to the consumer. And this is something that's important when we look at life cycle assessment research. We know one of the big areas for improvement, whether it's beef or any product, is the fact that we have a lot of plate waste, a lot of waste of food at retail establishments and restaurants especially, right? So this is just information, 2010 estimates from the USDA of how much food is wasted at the retail level or at the consumer level in those different product categories. So meat tends to be wasted one of the least. There is a higher percent at the consumer end of it, right? If we think about restaurants and plate waste. And I think that's really important for consumers to think about, right? If they're interested in sustainability, if you get a steak and you only eat half of it and you throw half of it away, I mean, that's 2 years, right, from conception to somebody's plate of resources going towards making food that then you throw away, right? So waste is a really key aspect of this whole food system, if you will, from a sustainability perspective. It's a big economic and environmental cost too, right? So these are again estimates from the EPA and the USDA of how much it costs, right? And these are kind of hidden costs, of course, right? People are buying food that they're not actually consuming, but it does add up. It's about $2,500 per average household is spent on food that then people never eat, right? So that's a lot of money that gets wasted, again, that's nourishing nobody. And so this little food waste hierarchy thing here is just showing, what are the goals that this is, again, a government source in terms of being set out there for reduction. And you can just see, obviously the first goal up at the top is reducing food waste if we can. You're never going to make it zero, right? There's just obviously economic factors there, diverting it to people. And then number 3 is feeding it to animals, right? And that's called out by the USDA and by the EPA as a sustainable way to deal with this issue of food waste. What's down on the bottom is landfills, right? And we'll come back to that. That's the least preferred way to get rid of food waste. Things like carrot waste, tomato pumice, citrus pulp, right? There's all these different byproducts that are out there that are available and are used by the livestock industries. And obviously they're highly localized. Usually these are low dry matter, right? High bulky feeds that are not going to go that far, but they are very localized and used by livestock. In Colorado, we have lots of brewers' grains, right? Obviously, that end up as cattle feed. The other side of this whole idea of waste or using everything, right, comes down to the carcass itself, the animal itself. And usually, when we're talking about life cycle assessments, all the burden, if you will, is put on the whole muscle cuts, right? The steaks, the ground beef. But we have all the offal products as well, right? Obviously, all the variety meats that are listed here on the screen, which are important, especially for exports, of course, in terms of value for the U.S. beef industry. But then we have all those inedible offal pieces as well, right? Things that essentially make it really hard if you were going to truly be a vegan in a society, right? Because cow products are everywhere, right? From Jell-O to confectionery products, to pharmaceuticals, right? So there's so many different components that come from cattle that, again, we typically ignore in a lot of these life cycle assessments or discussions about how sustainable the U.S. beef industry is. And I would argue, again, this is another example of upcycling or extracting as much possible value out of something as we can. So coming back to this food waste issue, I think it's important to point out, I showed that upside down triangle and the landfills at the bottom. The reason this is important is because a lot of the attention that we get in the beef cattle industry is about methane emissions, right? And the methane that naturally gets produced from cattle. And that's what's up on this pie chart of the U.S. breakdown. This is just the breakdown of methane emissions. So this is not total U.S. greenhouse gas emissions, but just methane emissions. And if you're not familiar, methane, it's a greenhouse gas. That's why people are so concerned about it. So enteric fermentation of all of our ruminants is the number 2 source of methane emissions in the United States after natural gas and petroleum systems, which is mostly like leaks, right, from our natural gas systems around the United States. And landfills are number 3, right? So the reason I put this up here, and you all can read on the screen there, essentially one of the big sources of organic material that goes into landfills that drives this process of making methane is food waste. right? So again, if we think about the whole system, it's super important to not forget the consumer end of how that affects all the impacts in this whole thing.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. Watch Ag AM in Kansas online at agaminkansas.com.